when did you know you wanted to pursue a career in music, and how did you get started in your vocal training?
I knew that I wanted to be a singer when I was, gosh, a child. My mom would play musicals, like Annie. I remember I memorized the entire soundtrack to Annie. And I would, they bought me like a recorder, my parents, for one of my birthdays when I was like little. I don't even remember how old. And I would record myself singing. And I really didn't get serious about it until I was in high school and I had to think about where I was going to college. And I thought, oh, I should be a vet because I really love animals. I wanted to either be a vet or a singer. And so I decided that singing was my dream. I was like, well, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to pursue it. And thank goodness my parents were supportive in that. And that they allowed me to go to a university. I did go to community college for 2 years first. They were like, why don't you take the class, take some music classes, see if this is what you want to do before we go, branch out and go somewhere bigger. And I did. Um, and I established residency in the state where I wanted to go to college. So I ended up going to North Carolina School of the Arts as an in-state student for 4 years. So my junior and senior year of undergraduate, and then my 2 years of graduate school. So I ended up staying at the school for 4 years where I wanted to be in the first place. So that just kind of kept happening, like, oh yes, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. All of a sudden I'm a singer. So I graduated with my master's and I moved to New York that summer, like almost like a month later, and got a job as a waitress. And it took me about
That's super cool.
a month to feel comfortable to go to my first audition.
Mm.
And my first audition wasn't in opera, it was in musical theater. And I just started just putting myself out there and putting myself out there. And, eventually things started to happen. So I guess it was meant to be, right?
And you did very well. You were very successful. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a pretty good career in performing. It's still happening, so that's good. It's just different now, being in New York, things are very different. You have opportunities to audition for things that are all over the world. So, there are many more auditions in New York, which is why people move there, because that's, it's kind of like the place to be. Not only that, but Broadway is there, and that's like everybody's dream is to be on Broadway, right? So if you're not there, how are you going to be on Broadway? So yeah, it was a good career. It led me to meet, like, all of these wonderful people. Like, I got to meet my friends, and um, I met my husband, which led me to have a child with him. And, I would never give that back for the world. So it, I would say I have no regrets about my career. I mean, if anything, if I had to do it over again, if anything, I would have moved to New York sooner than I did.
yeah, but your path was your path.
Yeah,
You you
for
you did
sure.
very well, and, you how long did it take for you to get your first job on when you started the audition circuit?
That's a good question. Almost a year. Almost a
That's
year.
that's actually pretty good,
It's
right?
pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I started getting callbacks right away. But I would keep hearing from the people, that's really great, but can you lose some of like the opera sound? And I was like, oh, I'm just singing the way my teacher told me to. And So I had to figure out what they meant by that. I got a voice teacher in New York. In fact, I went through a couple of voice teachers before I found one that I stayed with for a very long time. And I learned how to find the ping and learned how to make the sound that people were looking for. It took some time to do that. So I would get callbacks a lot. I mean, I had, the look. I had like a look of like an ingenue, kind of ethnically ambiguous, and so I did well in the call with the callbacks, and then eventually I got hired, and I left New York, and I I didn't go back for quite some time. So I'd say that's good.
Time to
That's a
go
good
back,
thing.
right?
What?
Because sometimes they forget about you when you take a tour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I kept auditioning for things. So even though I was away, I kept like going, like I would fly back and I would take this audition, or I would, do a video submission, or I kept trying to keep my feet in the pond. And so like one job led to, so I had like a layoff from one job, and I came home for a month, and I was scheduled to go back out to that same theater. And that's when I booked the Music Man. And I had to call that guy and be like, I'm so sorry, but I'm taking this tour. And then I
Yeah.
was on tour for 2 years. And right after we got home, and we were home for like, I think we were home for like 4 months or something. And then I booked the West Side tour, which put me out for another year. And so it was just like boom, 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 boom. When it started. Like when it was happening, it happened.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's pretty neat the way that happens. Like you're all of a sudden you're in front of people. You're like, I gotta stay here.
Yeah.
This is good. Things are rolling.
You get good momentum once you start to kind of build a reputation for yourself as being
Absolutely.
reliable. Aside from the talent and aside from all of the education and the experience that you have going into New York, you got to be a reliable singer.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, that for sure. We
Yeah.
were doing 8 shows a week plus rehearsals. Yeah,
Mhm.
you need to know what you're doing vocally.
You need to have all of that under your belt, but then you
Yeah.
also need to show up appropriately. you
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
yeah.
Always early. I see. Here's the thing, though. I'm never on time for anything else except rehearsals. Rehearsals, I'm on time for. I'm early for, in fact.
Right.
And call time, I'm always there an hour early instead of half. I'm not there at half hour. So everything else, though, in my life, late, except for that. I was trained well, I guess.
Absolutely. That's the way it should be, right? Then you can relax on the other side, other parts of your life. So,